YouTube, Soulkill here, and to start watching this video you had to at least at one point in the past pick up your phone and touch it, and you felt that. Did you actually touch your phone? Well, the answer is technically no, because you are composed of atoms, just like your phone of course, but they never came into contact. This is because of a few principles of the universe. There's a thing called Pauli's exclusion principle, and it states that two quantum particles cannot occupy the same quantum state. But what does that mean? Well, an atom isn't what you may think it is, which is just a bunch of negatively charged electrons orbiting around the nucleus. It's more of a cloud around the nucleus in which you have a chance of finding the electron, and the darker the cloud, the shadier it is, the higher the probability of finding the electron is. But the whole thing represents the electron when you aren't observing it, and it's called an orbital, and it's an area inside of an atom around the nucleus. And quantum states are things that define this. Quantum states you can think of not just as the position, but the spin, which is a unique property, and the charge of quantum particles. And there's something, and Pauli's exclusion principle says that no two quantum particles can occupy the same quantum state. They of course can't overlap with one another and have the same spin. And so because of this, you can't, if you try to say push your two fingers together like this, the electrons inside of the orbitals, inside of the atoms on both fingers, will not be able to occupy the same quantum state. They won't be able to get too close to one another. They're also repelling one another because of charge, because electrons are negatively charged, and because of Coulomb's law, negatives repel. I mean, you'll probably know that anyway because of magnets, but that's the reason behind it. And that is going on, of course, when the negatively charged electrons in both atoms on both fingers are trying to come into contact with one another, though. So what are you actually feeling? Well, something happens called a virtual photon exchange. The electromagnetic field is something being generated all the time by the electrons in your two atoms, and when you press them together with enough force, they disturb the electromagnetic field, these two electrons, when they're trying to avoid being overlapping one another and having the same quantum state, and this causes them to be pushed apart. Virtual photons is just the name of the process, the thing that can only exist when the electromagnetic field is being changed. It's ripples in the electromagnetic field of the electrons in the two atoms that are trying to come into contact with one another, and these are picked up by your nerve cells because they change the electrons and in your nerve in the fingers, and your nerve cells will pick these up, turn them into electrical signals and send them to your brain. So you think you're touching something, but it's all a lie.